You're listening to the Richard Spoff Show on Paranormal UK Radio Network.
From the dead of night, peering through the veil of darkness, the paranormal, spiritual, and comedic abound. Welcome to the Richard Spoff Show.
The Richard Spoff Show is brought to you by Audible. You can find us on our website at angelicmedium.org. Let's take a minute vacation and listen to a song I composed entitled Angels Sing. I'd like to thank HCUniversalNetwork.com. Thank you, Christopher Jordan. You're also tuned in to tonight Paranormal UK Radio Network,
a.k.a.
PAUKRadio.com. I also like to give a big thank you to FringeRadioNetwork.com. That's FringeRadioNetwork.com. Thank you, Johnny. Also, Tom Donahue at TalkStream Live and Paranormal Radio.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment. The Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Hi, I'm Betty White. Keepers of the Wild is a nonprofit animal sanctuary that specializes in rescuing and caring for these wonderful creatures. The founder, Jonathan Kraft, and these wild animals have established a loving bond. To watch them interact is fascinating, and it's an experience you'll never forget. The staff and volunteers have dedicated their lives to give these animals a new start and a home where they can live out their lives in dignity. They also provide the community and children with an educational program where you can learn and help preserve our precious wildlife and the environment that we must all share. So listen to the call of the wild and support Keepers of the Wild, a truly fine organization.
You could find their website at keepersofthewild.org. Hello and welcome to the Richard Spoff Show. Again, we have two wonderful guests, the same guests that were here last week. And we have some wonderful topics to talk about. Gisela Furtha and co-host Jason Faust. Let's continue on.
Okay, now we were talking about, if we took a road trip to Denver.
Yes.
In Denver, there's numerous hotels that have ghosts all over. The Brown Hotel, they have reports of the ghost sitting at the edge of their bed in the morning, saying hello. There's all sorts of things like that. And the Patterson Hotel has ghosts in it, where they roam through the halls. And also there's a bed and breakfast that has a ghost in it. So Denver is full of them, and all these hotels are 125 or more years old. And they just kind of sit. It's in the middle of downtown Denver, and just kind of hover in there. Many, many reports. Now, I used to live there, so that's why I heard all these stories.
Did you see anything?
I never went myself, except I went to a restaurant where I used to sing karaoke. And this was an older restaurant, too. And you would see, if you stay there late enough after the karaoke show is over, you'd see a woman dressed in a beautiful red dress, and she'd be walking up. They had like 3 little stairs going to the next level. She'd be walking up to 3 levels, and, she wouldn't say anything. But you did just see her. It's kind of like transparent. But you could see her walking up to 3 levels, and then she'd disappear. And I was sitting in the booth with my friends, and we all saw this, so it has to be real, right? Has to be.
Wow, yeah. That's awesome.
Here, another one in Marietta, there's some place called the KEA Mill. And the kids love it. I mean, the young folks, because that's the place they take their friends to spook them. But there is a ghost. Many people have seen this, of a little girl in a blue dress that lives there on the top floor that you can't get to because the mill itself is destroyed and there's no stairs. And you'll see her in the window. And next door to this mill, there's an abandoned elementary school. And some people have gone there, and they have actually seen apparitions running across the field and in the building, and supposedly having one of these devices where they talk to them. And they said, yeah, my name is Susie. Susie and I are here. And all kinds of things like that. So that's a very haunted area right there in Marietta. It could do for more investigation by a more professional person. I mean, this is just like lay people seeing this.
Well, Jason, what do you think? You want to take it up?
Oh, if I could get out there, I would definitely want to do. Yes.
Marietta at Old Town Temecula. Oh, also in Temecula, there was all kinds of massacres in the 1800s, and they buried them in one place. It's under something called the Sports Authority, and off Temecula Road, and that place is so eerie and cold and haunted. You just know that the apparitions are there, because they were massacred, of course, so they're all angry. So they're all there, just milling about, and you can feel them. And they're buried underneath the Sports Authority. So what are they going to do, right?
But you know what? Like that's a frustrating thing. That I'm sure, like you said, they're buried in a mass grave. It was a massacre. Mm-hmm. Of course they're going to be angry, but that doesn't make them evil.
No,
But those sound fascinating. And, you had said you don't know how far I travel out. I travel anywhere I go. I try to find ghost stories. I try to find locations that I can look into a little bit. We went on, my wife and I went on our first anniversary trip to South Dakota, and we went to Deadwood. And there was only a couple places I wanted to go, but everywhere we went now, sometimes I forget. I always wear, a cap, a ball cap. I call it my lid, and so, but it's always my Heartland Paranormal one. And I do wear other team shirts. It's about all I wear is I rep for a lot of teams. But I forget sometimes, and then people see it and they're like, "Oh my goodness, do you do this?" And I'm like, "Yes." And so here comes a flood of ghost stories. Oh, so in Deadwood, where I wanted to do the Bullock Hotel, and I wanted to do a few little places. All of a sudden, I did 8 or 10 places in Deadwood, and it was crazy because everywhere I go, I end up doing gathering history on way more than I ever planned because people just love telling their stories.
Oh,
so what you were talking about in Denver, Oh, I would have a heyday.
Oh, you'd have a heyday with Denver because, I mean, I've seen it myself. It's just downtown around the Brown Hotel, it's just packed full of ghosts and stories and apparitions. And, well, evidently they're not hurting anybody because they still have a great business going on. So this is a working hotel that has the apparitions still.
And I'm sorry. I didn't. You go ahead.
I believe people go there because they want to see the ghosts. Seriously.
That's what I was just going to say. You know, it's funny that, like, you know, a number of years ago, there would have been kind of a stigma on this, and, like, maybe people would have, like, steered away because of the haunting. Nowadays, people go there because of the haunting. You know, it's...
and, you know, they keep up the place. I mean, it's not run down or anything. It's beautiful, but the ghosts are still there. That restaurant that I saw them, it was one of the nicest restaurants in the area, you know, but they wouldn't appear until after everything died down. When the music was going on, they weren't there. At least you couldn't see them. But when it was quiet and most people had gone, there they were. At least the woman was, anyway.
Well, and I don't know. Like, there's a certain reason that, you know, investigators do overnight investigations. They have more control over their environment. They can eliminate false positives, stuff like that. So, are they not as active when all the people are there, or are they just less noticeable? You know, if the whole club is, or the restaurant is, like, really hopping and there's a lot of stimulation there, maybe they're there. They just aren't quite as noticeable. You know, I was gonna say this, like, you know, you go out to Massachusetts and you've got the Lizzie Borden bed and breakfast. Terribly tragic event, you know. A lot of people think Borden was guilty and that she did it. And I think that a lot of evidence would point that she did. I think there's a lot of evidence that points that she couldn't have done it. But it would be fascinating to stay overnight in that bed and breakfast.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, and like I said, there's really nothing to be afraid of because they're not out to hurt you.
Right, and I think with that house, you've got, you know, the father and the stepmother's energies in that house. And just recently, you know, Lizzie Borden's house in, what was it? Falls City? No, it was something Falls. It was a house where she finished off her life in. And they were trying to sell that house for an exceptional amount of money. I can't quote what it was now. Because they could not get zoned to run that as a bed and breakfast. Well, there really would be no marketing in that anyway, because it was like, why would that be haunted?
That's true.
There's no reason for that to be haunted, you know. I mean, that's where she, you know, Lizzie Borden went and ended up passing away eventually, but it's, I think people think, okay, well, it's really old, it must be haunted. Well, a tragic event, it must be haunted. Those things don't automatically become antecedents for a haunting, you know.
No, I would think not. I would really think not.
You could have.
I went to Salem a few years ago.
Oh.
And we went to the House of the Seven Gables. I was telling Richard, what was that? Was it Colonel? What was his name? I can't remember. But something with a P. Do you remember what it was? Richard?
I'm right here. I'm letting you guys talk. Flow is good. No, I don't. You were telling me about it, but go ahead.
Well, anyway, some colonel was murdered in there. And they give tours of it now, of course, because it's the House of the Seven Gables. But nobody lives there. It's just a tourist thing, right? And they have a lot of things roped off, and they have the kitchen the way it was, and the nursery the way it was, and all that other stuff. But you know, my son and myself, we went by the nursery with the tour. And we actually saw, because I asked him later, I said, did you see the kids playing on the rocking horse? And he goes, yeah. You know, and you could tell they were apparitions because they weren't solid, but you could see them laughing and playing on the rocking horse. So his children were still there. I mean, to me, at first it was a little unnerving, and I looked at my son, and he looked at me, and no, but we both saw the same thing.
Do you know why the kids might still be there by chance?
I don't know, maybe they were happy there, and maybe they were looking for the family life that they had. Because as far as I understand, it was only the father who was murdered, and there was some kind of curse he mentioned, too.
Do you know about that curse?
Myself?
No. Yes.
Oh, you're talking to Jason.
No, you.
No, I do not really know about the curse. I mean, and it's funny because I'm really into the occult and the witchcraft and Salem and all that stuff, but no, I did not know about that curse, but I know that whole house was supposed to be cursed. And that's why it's such a fantastic tourist attraction, of course. But, you know, me and my son, we actually saw the ghosts playing in the nursery on the rocking horse, the little children. They were laughing and just playing. It was like, you know, nothing to be afraid of, but it's like, did you see that?
The Salem witch trials was a very sad event.
Very.
I mean, like, that was just like personal prejudice that ended up in a wrongful death of a lot of people.
Definitely. And the thing that stopped it was they accused the governor's wife of being a witch, and he said, okay, that's it, I'm done.
Right. Were you talking about that Colonel Nathaniel Saltonstall?
No, it's something with the P. I just had it not too long ago that, you know, Richard was telling me, here it is, who was murdered at the house of Colonel Pyncheon.
Ah, there we go, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, because, that Saltonstall was a judge in the trials. Mm-hmm. Okay, so this Pyncheon was who?
He owned the House of the Seven Gables.
Okay.
And
he was murdered in
And he was murdered there, yeah.
Now, the House of the Seven Gables is the only one that is like original to the time period that's still standing, right?
Oh, yes, it is. It's original. And, you know, there's not much there that's original. There really isn't. They took us down to where they held the prisoners, you know, the underground. And then they told us how it was just like you said, it was a fight between neighbors and also between Harvard and Yale. They were trying to, you know, fight for who was the better college, Harvard or Yale. So that was a big thing also.
Wow.
You said that there were prisoners in the house?
No, there weren't prisoners in the house. No, I just said, no, I don't know where you got that from.
Oh, I'm thinking about, I thought I heard Al Capone. I know he kept them in his house, but no, we're talking about somebody else now.
No, his name is just, you know, Colonel Pyncheon, so, you know.
Well, he was...
Read it quickly. He was diseased with something. Whether black and moss crusted him, settled laws of archaic dwelling. So, you know, you wouldn't know that it kind of fell apart to look at it.
So, what access do you have of the Seven Gables house? Like, when you go in there, is it set up like a museum, or are you...
Yes, it is. It's set up like a museum. It's a tour, and they keep, like, the actual rooms roped off, so you're kind of just walking through it. And you don't, you know, you can't really go sit in the furniture or anything. And they tell you what went on. I'm sure they told us about the story. You know, it was a mansion, and then he got killed. A lot of Puritans then, you know.
Yeah, and it's a sad deal, but like, for them to preserve that bit of history is fantastic. I mean, you'd wish that some of the other history might have survived.
Well, here's what it says on the internet. It says when the servants were looking for the colonel, and because he liked to hide in his study, it says the doors flew open with a gust of wind blowing through the house, and they found him in the chair dead, with everything scattered all around him, and his eyes were like naturally gazing towards the gathered crowd. And, you know, it's like, and his grandson was the only one brave enough to go into the room.
Wow.
Yeah, and his mustache and beard were soaked with blood, and his shirt was stained with blood.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Pretty scary, I tell you. I even hear music in the background.
The old wizard Matthew Maw was heard to say God had given his blood to drink. So they're trying to say somehow, of course, I don't know if they ever solved it, but that he was cursed and he was killed because he did something against Puritan beliefs. And he was killed in his study.
Not good. No.
Yeah.
You don't want to kill anybody.
Yeah, so imagine that's the grandson that me and my son saw in the nursery, playing on the horses and stuff.
Now, where is that? I hear some music in the background. Where's that coming from? Anybody around here, or just is that a ghost?
I actually hear it too.
I have a TV on real low.
Okay, that's what you scared us.
That might be it, yeah. Let's see if I turn it down, see if you still hear it.
She's watching TV. We must be really interesting.
No.
I'm playing with you.
I leave it up to my puppies and my kitties.
So, I'm gonna say something real quick here, and then I want you to tell me. There's been. You said you're really big into the witchcraft and that kind of area of the paranormal. There's a lot of stuff that have curses on it. You have the painting of the crying boy and stuff, which is really funny because I think that debunks itself. But cursed objects, curse this, curse that, and people are afraid to read a certain book. Or you have Rezo's Hungarian suicide song. It's called Gloomy Sunday, and they say if you listen to Gloomy Sunday, you feel like killing yourself. And I think it's a beautiful song. It's it really is a wonderful, beautiful song. But they played it on Schindler's List, and they didn't have these mass reports of people committing suicide after Schindler's List. Right. But I say it like this: I thought it was going to be an isolated incident. But I've actually I've taken on about 4 cases, 4 or 5, 4 after the initial one. So actually about 5 cases where people will have me read a letter or listen to a cassette tape or something of the sort where they're afraid to look into it. And the first one, a lady said, this is a cassette tape that was sent to my grandmother and she passed before she could listen to it. And she was dating, blah, 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 this guy, and he was into dark stuff, but we don't want to listen to it. We want to know what's on it, but we don't want to listen to it. So they hire me to listen to the cassette tape.
Oh, great.
And, right. And it's so funny because I end up getting hired on to read this document, listen to this cassette tape, or, look at this, listen to this. And it's so funny because there's so much importance placed on these curses. And honestly, where I don't discount a curse altogether, I don't believe that there is much clout behind them as people say. I think there's too much Hollywoodization put behind them. My question to you is, what do you think about curses on books, items? Yes, absolutely.
I think that some people are so, I don't know if I use the correct word, that they scare themselves. They hear that something is cursed, and they believe it so much that they actually scare themselves. And whatever the curse may have been, they make it happen to themselves if it happens. That's what I think. I think they do it to themselves.
I agree. Kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Exactly.
Right. See, I agree wholeheartedly with that.
There's a show you might be interested in watching. I'll say this real quickly. And it kind of delves on that. It's called Warehouse 13, where they find artifacts. Of course, it's not true. of things that were okay in life, but somehow they got to be spiritually connected, where if it's out in real life, somebody's symbol will turn you into anybody you want to be. And, it's a very interesting show, but it delves on kind of what you were just saying, how these ancient things people attribute to being cursed or haunted. Haunted is fine, too. But it's a good show. If you ever get a chance, even if you watch one episode, I think you'd enjoy it because it delves in what you do about the objects that you find.
Where would I find that Warehouse 13? Is that on Netflix?
It on IMEP TV. It's free with ads, so let me just look it up really quickly.
It'd be like on YouTube.
It's one of my favorite shows. It is. It's one of my favorite shows. So.
Yeah, I'd actually be very interested in watching that. It's I've used this example because I use it a lot because it's such a blatant, blunt example where there was I'll just call him a weekend warrior type. He loved doing exciting stuff, and he had never done a ghost thing. And so I'm gonna be vague in my description to protect the identity and everything. But he went and took a ghost tour at a well-known location, and he decided that he brought home an attachment. He believed that he was cursed after leaving this location, and I had talked to him not long after that, and I said, well, why do you feel that you're cursed? Why do you feel that something followed you and is now cursing you and giving you bad luck? And he said, well, my wife left me, and then I went to the boats. I lost all my money, and on the way home from the boats, I crashed my truck. And it was these examples where, like, I see this kind of excuses type thing time and again, and I'm like, I was very blatant with him and said, you're not an agreeable person. If you wouldn't have been a jerk, your wife wouldn't have left you. If you didn't have a gambling problem and knew when to say when, you'd still have money in your pocket. And if you didn't drink so dang much, you wouldn't have wrecked your truck. There are explanations for everything that happened to you that have nothing to do with a curse, nothing to do with a ghost, nothing to do with none of that. And yet there's this blame put on the curse and the ghost, and it's just crazy.
And they do it. They, like you said, they do it to themselves. By the way, real quick,
said that actually, and I like that. Yeah.
The name of the station, it's Warehouse 13, and it's by IMD as in dog, B as in boy, TV.
Oh, IMBD. Yeah, okay.
Now, Gisela,
Yeah.
What's that? Another ghost?
What's my phone I'm trying to turn off? Yeah, it is a ghost.
We're cursed. We're cursed. We're cursed. Now, what's the worst curse you ever heard of, and how does it go? What's the story on it?
Myself, at this moment, I don't want to waste more time. I can't think of one. I mean, there are so many, since I don't really believe in them, years ago, I just kind of threw off, to after the wind.
Good idea. Yes. So
What about you, Richard? What is the worst?
Me?
Yeah.
The worst, you know what? I believe in energy being evil. I believe in energy being good. But I have been very blessed by angelic. Always has been good. May have been rough at the time. You know what I mean? But I've always had a very blessed life in that way. A very where I have had help. Like, for an example, the other day, if it makes sense, God talks to me and answers me right away sometimes. And what I mean by that, is I haven't heard from anybody for a long time. Haven't heard from them. And I was wondering if they were okay, worried about it. And all of a sudden, when I asked God if they were okay, I get a phone call from them telling me that they were okay. So...
Psychic energy, Richard. It's your mental telepathy that you pour out there.
Telepathy, or I believe it's the angelic realm. I'm always in that realm. Always in
I
that.
know we're almost at the time here. But speaking
We have
of
time.
angelic energy, my older son has been accused many times of having the demon in him. And to this day, I still think he does. Now, actually, I'm pretty sure it's more like alcohol and drugs, but something is making him continue on that road.
Well, that is a sign of a low entity that could be interfering within his life. I believe that. Jason?
Really? Because ever since he was little, that's what they would tell me. There's a demon in that boy.
Wow.
Yeah, long time. And, he goes that way because he was very hard to manage, always in trouble, and to this day, he's 31, but he's kicked him out of the house. I had to. And he's always in alcohol and drugs, and he thinks he has implants in him. He thinks he's being controlled by aliens and the government, and it's like, where does he come up with this stuff?
Well, alcohol itself is a mind and mood altering drug, but depending on the severity of the substance he's using, can possibly alter his mental state to think that kind of stuff. And
yeah, but when this started happening, he was just a little kid. He was like 4 or 5 years old when they said there's a demon in that boy. So,
have you ever had him checked for schizoaffective, bipolar, any kind of mood affect disorder?
And he does have now. In his adulthood, he's been diagnosed as schizoaffective, but he doesn't want to get any help for that, so it's his own issue, seriously.
See, and that's kind of a bummer, because mild medication and just counseling can really turn a person around.
Sometimes though, when a person is schizophrenic or something like that, you can't do too much. Counseling can't help because they don't realize what's going on.
Well, they think it's everybody else.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing is,
when they say that a demon possesses somebody, you look at not just my son, but people like him, and you swear that there's got to be a demon in that person because they're so aggressively evil. Not that they hurt, but the things they say and what they actually believe is so evil. And you wonder, where's this coming from?
but it's, the psychology part of things, a chemical imbalance in the brain, when things aren't working right, when synapses are misfiring, and, it can make someone be who they really are not, and it's a scary deal. And it's, Richard, you said schizophrenic, but if he was diagnosed schizoaffective, it's kind of like the autism spectrum,
right?
A little bit smaller, but you can have paranoid schizophrenic who always shows that kind of that those signs or whatever, but schizoaffective is on the lower end of it, where even unmedicated, it could be mood swings a little bit to a point, they could even have hallucinations, but know the difference type of thing.
He does. One day he was here, and it was 3 o'clock in the morning, and he came into the house. This is when he lived here, and he says, "There's monkeys in the tunnel, and they're trying to kill us, Mom. And you were there, and so was Irving." And I'm thinking, no, we weren't, but he'd actually believe this. That he saw monkeys in the tunnel.
That's.
And don't forget, there's different degrees in the sense that the chemistry in the body could change things. Yes, of course.
Yeah.
And you had the physical side and the spiritual side. And if those two things somehow lack in some way, it could create other things. Well, spiritual energy, if it's not treated in the right way, can affect you. I believe.
I agree with that. I guess
I do
I'm
too.
just very, very cautious on it because I've ended up, I'm very protective of children and vulnerable people, whether have mental illness, developmental disabilities, or elderly type. And I've had now a couple cases where I was brought on for consultation and I had to like just basically go and do my own thing because there were children involved in these cases and people who thought that they were qualified to do an exorcism that had nothing to do with the Catholic Church, and were involving the children. There's been a couple times where I've had to get law enforcement involved because it's like you have to cover all your bases, and that includes alcohol and substance abuse in the family, mental illnesses, and the psychological part of it, before you're chalking things up to the paranormal. And there have been cases where like it got very, very iffy, and I had to leave the consultation part, and then because they wanted to just make it all paranormal and they weren't covering all their bases, and children's well-being were being put in jeopardy. And I'm the type of person that I'm like, that's not going to happen if I'm involved, period.
Well, you know,
children and vulnerable people will be put, their safety is number one priority, and they will be taken care of.
And generally, when I have worked with the Eastern Orthodox Church within exorcisms, I could tell you that they have a demonologist on the staff. They have a psychiatrist on the staff, a psychologist on the staff. They don't do it. Yeah, they don't do it in a careless way. They investigate it first.
Right. And you know what, though? The church, if you look into the Catholic Church and the way they do an exorcism, they're extremely thorough.
Yes, they are.
Extremely thorough.
What do you think of exorcisms? I mean, now that we're on this subject, do you believe that they really can do that? Or do you believe that maybe it's just the person that has an issue, like psychologically? Or
could be both.
I think it could go either way. I mean, but see, like, the Catholic Church is so thorough on it that they're going to, like, cover all their bases and eliminate all possibilities before doing the exorcism rites. But what's the difference is that you specifically have to be ordained to do the exorcisms.
Yes.
If you're ordained to do the exorcisms, you don't go and do Sunday Mass, you know.
No, it's a separate thing, exactly. Yep.
It is. It's a totally separate thing. And so there's too many people out there who feel that for whatever reason that they can just do exorcisms. Well, it's by definition, you can't do it because, you know, if you learned a different way from a different culture or a different, whatever you want to call it, then call it by that name. Don't call it an exorcism. Call it a cleansing. Call it a extraction, whatever. But, you know, there are different cultures and different ways of doing things. But it kind of gets frustrating because, you know, and actually when you look up on Catholic websites, it's, I don't have it right in front of me. I had it in my notes because I did a lot of research on exorcisms. They had to like kind of rewrite some of their rules a little bit because of the call for exorcists in the 70s after the movie came out with Linda Blair, because so many people thought they were possessed. And the number of actual exorcisms done and the number of ones that were debunked were way different. You know, the debunked ones were like way up here and the actual number of exorcisms performed were way down there, you know. And so
and plus the percentage of success in a real exorcism is not too good.
That's what I was going to ask. Have you,
very low.
You know,
it's.
You witnessed any that actually did?
I have, yes. With my friend.
What happened at that point?
What now?
What happened to that person at that point?
Well, they were able to. This wasn't in this exorcism. The problem was the good thing was the spirit wasn't attached to them. It was attached to an Ouija board. So.
A Ouija board.
Yeah. So thank you. And they had to get rid of that. Yeah, they had to get rid of that board in a certain way for the spirit to leave. But it took like 2 years. Wasn't an easy thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
We're way over time here, Richard, but I think
No, you're fine. You're fine. Don't worry.
Okay. That's an interesting topic, because now going back to my son, could somebody have both, where they're,
Yeah.
you know, in touch with the demon, and then I know he has mental illnesses, but maybe that was caused by the entity that attached to him
Yes.
at a young age. Who knows?
I believe that there could be both that exist in a person, and it just complicates things.
Yeah.
Because I would ask him, I says, why do you do the things you do? He says, there's a war in my head and I'm fighting it. So, you know, it sounds to me maybe, if it, you know, it might produce a mental illness, but he's fighting against this evil thing in his head, wanting to be good. But the other part of him is saying, no, do this, do this, do this.
It's a scary thing for the person going through it. You know, it's.
Oh, yeah.
It's definitely not an easy thing to deal with.
No, definitely.
I mean, there's better things to do. Go out Saturday night and have fun. I mean, why deal with demons?
Wow.
But Gisela has been through a lot in her life with her son, and it's hard for her.
I'm still going through it, believe me.
Yeah, I know. There's so many. If you want to talk more about it, we can.
I'm fine.
Okay.
About it.
Jason, do you have any questions?
No, I mean, I'm here. I'm fascinated. I'm kind of. I hope that did not come out insensitive sounding.
No.
No, it did not.
Well, I'm thinking, like, I don't know. I'm thinking about the existence of both, the spiritual and the psychological thing at the same time. And I do believe they can exist, you know, simultaneously and stuff. But it's like, how do you approach that? What do you take care of first?
Just the spiritual thing. But first, the right food, eating the right foods, taking care of yourself physically to begin with.
Well, yeah, the body fuels the mind.
Yeah, that's the first thing. That's the first thing to do, and then bring in a psychologist. And a psychologist take care of the mental thing, or bring in a person of faith as well. So you have all bases covered.
Gisela, does your son, you said, isn't open to like taking medication or?
No, you know, he tried that and it did nothing for him. So he's kind of totally against it now.
Well, that's what's scary about a chemical imbalance, though, is that sometimes it's weird, because, like, I've known individuals who, you know, they go into a psych ward simply because it's a safe place to try different medications, and doctors will titrate them on and off different medications and see which ones are the right ones. And what's crazy about it is that the pharmaceutical companies are so out there now. There's so many medications for just one kind of affliction, let's call it affliction, that God, is like the chemistry is just messed up.
Yes.
And so, like, if it was like schizoaffective, you know, they might try him on 6 or 8 different medications before they find the right one.
And he won't go through that anymore. But the problem what he would do is he would take the meds, but he'd also take his own meds.
Right.
So he'd mix them, and that never worked. Now here's the strange thing. Going back to the entities, he's always been approached by spiritual people, and they would call him an angel. That he was an angel brought down from heaven. And he would tell me this, And so it's like, obviously there's something there that attracts these entities. Like you said, you have an angelic energy, Richard. Well, he's always been religious people always are attracted to him.
So you're saying he feels the good and he feels the bad then, right?
Yeah, that's what it seems like. And, some people call him an angel and other people will call him the devil. My experience today is he's on the devil's side right now.
It's sad, though. It's I know you laugh, but you want to cry. And she's been...
I do. I mean, it's so hard.
You've been going through this she's been going through this, Jason, for a long time, more than 10 years. All his life.
Yeah.
And it's been a struggle. Been a struggle for her. And, of course, her son is... It's not easy. Not easy at all.
Well, he struggles. He's homeless right now because he can't be here because of his psychotic episodes. He broke the door upstairs, and he also destroyed my side garage door. And that's when I totally kicked him out because I just can't have him breaking things in my house anymore. I can't afford it, right?
No.
And so he's on the street again, but his scenario hasn't changed. First it was gang stalkers, and then he has implants in his ear, implants in his mouth, and there's a control box. He's being controlled by somebody else. It's not him. He's aggressive and angry one minute, and, he tries to be nice the next, but he's not. And he just doesn't understand why everybody that has any kind of sense to him, that they don't want him around anymore. They try to befriend him, and then they kind of step back and let him do whatever. They won't let him in their house and things like that. And it's sad. It's hard for him. It's hard on me because I have to watch it. It's hard for him because he has to live it. He's not suicidal or anything. He found himself a little place in a tunnel where he has a little camp, and I guess he feels kind of safe there because he's been staying there. But he's not helping him any, and he comes up with more and more scenarios of why he acts this way.
Jason?
I'm kind of just listening. I don't know. I don't really have an answer. Because and it's so funny because I keep bringing up the medication thing, and I'm an anti-medication person.
So is he.
But I don't like medication. But when you're talking about something like that, it's a chemical imbalance, and so a medication is necessary to balance that chemical. And I do believe in that medication, but only to the point where that chemical is balanced to make those synapses as fire.
In that
correct.
case, yes.
And at a minimal necessity, okay?
But that still takes some willingness on his side.
Yes, and so that's where I'm kind of stuck because
he's not willing.
If he's not willing, and then he self-medicates with mind and mood-altering substances, whether it's alcohol or other illicit drugs, it's only going to serve to exacerbate the situation.
Oh,
and so,
Dick has left the building because I said, Michael, if you take care of your issues, the money will come. I said, so you'd rather live in the streets so you can drink your alcohol and do your drugs and have shelter over your head and a place to shower and food to eat? And it just doesn't sink in. Logic does not work with him anymore.
Well, and that's the thing with alcohol and drugs. Logic is not there.
Yeah.
If logic was there, then logic would tell them that alcohol and drugs is going to mess up not only my mind but my body, and I'm not going to do this. And so that's where I get frustrated to the point where, you sit there and I know that I'm going to be thinking about your son after this, and I'm going to be thinking about him a lot, because my heart goes out to him. I can empathize. But my thing is that, like, I know people who have been sober for 25 years and they go back to drinking, and the frustrating part is that you slowly see their way of thinking change. And I've watched totally logical people, intelligent people, as they slip back into alcoholism, then they start buying these weird conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
And then these weird conspiracy theories like latch onto them, and then they're like, these conspiracy theories control their life, and they become paranoid, and they become weird. They become weird, obnoxious people. And that's just alcohol, not anything else.
Oh, definitely.
Giselle. Wait. I'm sorry. Go. I was going to say.
No. Go ahead, Richard.
I was going to say for Giselle to give her email out to see if anybody that is listening to our show that may have some ideas for her. If you want, what do you think about that, Giselle? Do you want to give your?
I'm up for anything, but they've got to keep in mind that he is not willing.
Yeah.
We've gone as far as to call a rehab and give him his number, and he'll say, "Oh, it's identity theft." And I mean, that's how unwilling he is to help himself.
Well, maybe somebody has some idea out there. Why don't we get your email?
Okay, let me give it to you, Richard. Tell me when you're ready.
I'm ready. Everybody is gonna listen, I hope.
Okay. G as in good, Z as in zoo, L as in love, F as in Frank, R as in Robert, T as in Tom, and H as in hat at gmail.com. So it's GZLFRTH@gmail.com.
Thank you. That's great. And please get in touch with Giselle if you have any suggestions.
Because it makes his brother, my younger son, he's so sad that his brother does that. Michael will steal from Irving. He'll steal the mail if it has Irving's name on it, because for some reason he's extremely jealous of his brother. Now, Irving is like the ideal kid. He's 25 now, but he's like really a sweetheart, helpful, and he's going to college. He's taking it slow, but he's still going. And if you ask him to fix something, he will, and he can, because he's like extremely smart. So Michael is extremely jealous of Irving. That's what I've heard through the grapevine. So anything he can do to hurt Irving, minutely, he will. Steal money, steal mail, all these kinds of things. And it hurts Irving a lot because he wants a brother, and he doesn't have one. That's the way he looks at it.
Jason?
I need time to process a lot of it.
He is
but
a good case. I'm telling you, I've never in my life met anybody like my son, and I don't know what else to say, because if you saw him, seriously, he still dresses okay, and he tries to, because he doesn't want to look homeless. So he'll dress as nice as he can. He'll comb his hair. You can tell by his teeth he doesn't take care of himself, because they're like disgusting. But, your first glance at him, you'd never know. But then after you start talking to him, you realize how far out he is and what he's talking about and how he thinks and, stuff like that. And everybody's always against him. They're stealing things from him. They're doing this. They're controlling his mind with this control box. You tell me
and that's a paranoid part.
Yeah, my number is 8859, and I go, okay, Michael, whatever you say. I don't know what to tell him.
Yeah, I know.
You know, though, I definitely like. I'm gonna process a lot of this, and it's different in the Midwest, but like I feel for your son, and I have a feeling that we'll be in touch, Gisela.
Oh, that would be great. That would be great.
Because, you know, being that I work in the field and stuff, and my heart goes out to your son right now, and you, of course. And so I'm one of them people that like it just doesn't stop at prayers. I'm going to do my best to like rack my brain to see what I can do to help.
Well, you know, the hard thing is I put a restraining order on him, and this was just in May because, like I said, he broke my door. I even put a felony on him, not because I want to hurt him, because I'm thinking when he goes to court, maybe the judge will order him to go to rehab.
Well, yeah, you know what? That's tough love, though.
Yeah, it is tough love.
It might be hard on you at the moment, but you know what? If it gets the right steps taken,
if it gets the right results, I'll be happy. And the police, they knew exactly what I was doing, because first they wanted to make it just a misdemeanor. I said, really? And I go, okay, let's see what we can do. And they put it up to a felony because of the price of repairing the door. But they knew what I wanted to do, because they knew I wanted to help him. Everybody knows Michael. Michael is known by everybody in my city. All the police know him.
Yes.
Yeah, everybody knows who he is just because of the little bits of trouble he gets into all the time, you know. As a matter of fact, the police will come up to me someday and they're surprised that Michael's still alive. Because at times they would find him, you know, unconscious in front of the Stager brothers. Or they found him on a street corner once and he had to go to ICU because he was unconscious and he was beaten up. I mean, you know, I've been through a lot with this child. And I'm always there for him, but he doesn't see that.
No, not right now.
I have a restraining order on him. You know, he'll come over and I want to take a shower, and I have my doubts about it because he just stole things from Irving. And then Irving will talk to him, that's my younger son, and he'll push his way in the door, and then he'll be here for like 2 hours, not just taking the shower, but just milling around. He has no place to go. And my heart won't push him out right away, even though I know he can't stay. Because time with Michael makes him worse. Because that's when he starts getting in trouble. The more time you're with him, the more comfortable he feels, and then he starts doing things that are not right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, before we do, let's. I mean, if you guys want to exchange phone numbers when we get off air, we could do that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's end the show, and then hold on for a minute, guys. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to the Richard Spoff Show. And if you could help out Gisela's son or have any ideas, please contact her. Give us your email one more time.
GZLFRTH@gmail.com.
Thank you again, guys.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, Richard.
Much love, and God bless you, everybody. You're also tuned in to tonight Paranormal UK Radio Network,
AKA
PAUKradio.com.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Richard Spoff Show. For more episodes and information, join us online at psychicmediumspazoffshow.com or catch the show on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast service. The Richard Spoff Show is a proud member of the HC Universal Network family of podcasts. For more great content and shows, visit hcuniversalnetwork.com or download our free HC Universal Network podcast app from your favorite device market. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and until next time, keep watch on the darkness.